Yes, let's go. Throw the hook with the best of them. King Kong beat your chest, should've slept on you. What's next? The check, drip, dip, run the neck, check, hook by the book, fish hook off the deck. ShowBizz. Throw the hook, shouldn't have slept on you. What's up, my people? This is ShowBizz, the adult. All right, man, look, let's throw the hook. Breaking news! In just 24 hours, we have learned so much about Canelo Alvarez's next fight. So if you don't know, the undisputed super middleweight champion Saul Canelo Alvarez is looking to face the WBC cruiserweight world champion Ilunga Makabu. Oh my God. And this just in. The latest news we're hearing is that the fight is going to take place in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That's right, the Central Africa country formerly known as Zaire. And if Zaire sounds familiar, it's probably because it is the home of one of the greatest, richest, most popular, most publicized, biggest, and most amazing heavyweight bouts of all time. The greatest Muhammad Ali versus Big George Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle. So Canelo versus Makabu can be the Rumble in the Jungle too. And that's not the only thing that this fight has in common with the Rumble in the Jungle. If you don't know, Ilunga Makabu's promoter is the famous one and only Don King. That's right, the promoter of the famous Rumble in the Jungle. Oh my God. You want to talk about going for greatness? Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Ilunga Makabu is the Rumble in the Jungle too. I mean, this is insane. Canelo Alvarez is definitely pursuing greatness here. If victorious, you can throw Canelo Alvarez's name with the great ones who accomplished things similar to this. The great Roy Jones Jr. when he moved up to heavyweight to take on John Ruiz. The great Manny Pacquiao jumping up 8 weight divisions, eventually fighting Antonio Margarito. And I know that there are critics out there saying, well, who's Ilunga Makabu? Well, Ilunga Makabu is a hard-hitting southpaw, 28 wins with 25 by KO and 2 KO losses. Now, his first KO loss was the first fight he ever had. But many great fighters lost their first fight. Bernard Hopkins famously lost his first fight. It has been said that arguably the greatest fighter of all time, Homicide Hank, Henry Armstrong, lost his first 3 fights. Hell, Manny Pacquiao was KO'd twice early in his career. And look at what they accomplished. The other KO loss that Makabu suffered was a loss at the hands of Tony Bellew. Now, Makabu, he was knocked out in the 3rd round by Bellew, but if any of you saw that fight, Makabu was up, knocking down Tony Bellew in the 1st round, winning the 2nd round, and aggressively attacking Bellew before being caught by a hook that sent Makabu on his way. Now, that was years ago. Makabu was acting immaturely there, but since then, he has gone on a winning streak. Once again, getting the chance at the WBC title, winning, and then defending his belt. Now, if you compare this fight, Alvarez versus Makabu, to some of the great accomplishments, like I mentioned before, by Roy Jones Jr., if you look at who Roy Jones Jr. fought to become WBA heavyweight world champion, he took on John Ruiz. Now, John Ruiz, he had losses of his own. He had 4 losses and a draw. He was KO'd by David Tua, who wasn't. And he took a loss by far past his prime, Evander the Real Deal Holyfield, who he also had a draw with. And I also mentioned the accomplishment of Manny Pacquiao moving up to take on Antonio Margarito. We all know Antonio Margarito, he suffered 6 losses before Manny Pacquiao, and he was KO'd by Sugar Shane Mosley. But still, we celebrated and we had to give Roy Jones Jr. and Manny Pacquiao their roses for those accomplishments. Those were big deals. And so is this one with Saul Canelo Alvarez. Canelo began his career at 147 and now facing the cruiserweight at a 200-pound limit. Hell, it wasn't that long ago that the cruiserweight was a heavyweight. And if you look at the comparison between Canelo Alvarez and Roy Jones Jr., with Canelo going from 147 to cruiserweight and Roy Jones Jr. coming from 154 to heavyweight, and the champions they face, John Ruiz, Ilunga Makabu, you can definitely compare these accomplishments. And Roy Jones Jr. is my favorite fighter of all time. But I just can't hate. You got to give love to Canelo Alvarez for this one. But the difference here is this. Roy Jones Jr. stands at 5'11". There have been many heavyweight champions that stood around 5'11". Just ask Iron Mike Tyson. While Saul Canelo Alvarez, he stands at 5'8". What I'm saying is this. Roy Jones Jr. had a taller frame to put on and pack on that weight and muscle. Whereas Canelo Alvarez being 5'8", I'm extremely curious in how Canelo Alvarez is going to be able to carry that 200 pounds. Is it going to slow him down? Is it going to make him a bit lethargic in the ring? Is it going to take away from his speed and explosiveness? Is it going to give him stamina issues? I mean, look, I am extremely interested. Either way, this is a big deal. The Rumble in the Jungle 2, Alvarez versus Makabu. Thanks for throwing a hook with the biz. Let me know how you all feel in the comments below. ShowBizz, the adult. I'm out.